Sup peeps, my name's Ian. I sell books on eBay, at least I try to, and that's how it's felt the last 24 hours. When I went to my bed last night, I had one sale that had come in since my postage cut off yesterday. Luckily, a couple have come in overnight, early hours of the morning, so I've got a total of 3 sales to share with you this morning, but really slow, but you know, swings and roundabouts, that's what happens. But I have had a comment, question, suggestion from, and I'm going to name you here, Dave. David Bateman. So thank you very much for getting in touch. And yeah, it's something that I think about quite often, what David is talking about. So I'm going to go through what he's saying and try and address a wee bit of that and show how it fits into my business model. That seems a wee bit kind of, but best way of describing it as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, let's take a wee look at the 3 massive orders that have come in, and then I'm going to get on to David's point and see what we can do. So first up, a huge bundle of 2 Jacqueline Wilson paperbacks, $7.99 for the 2 of those. Lovely condition. Jacqueline Wilson, talking about kids books the other day, she just seems to keep on selling, so yeah, that's a nice wee sale for $7.99. Next we have, not books, but a couple of DVDs. So Mallrats, What's Eating Gilbert Grape, they both the 80s or the 90s. I can never find dates on DVDs, it always frustrates me. You try and scan and then you have to read it and reread it and reread it. But yeah, you know, classics. Johnny Depp and Leo as little boys. And well, Jay and Silent Bob, banger. But the 2 of them, £8.99, so quite nice. And then a little on his own, John Grisham, The Judge's List, first edition, lovely condition, hardcover book, and that's heading to Lee for £9.99. So that's the 3 sales, really not an awful lot at all. A slow day, but it gives me lots of time to do other things. Those other things that I did was, I didn't do much, I'll be perfectly honest. I did do a bit of a pickup yesterday, grabbed a few bits and pieces, shared one of them with you, the big Atlas book, which I've still not actually listed and sorted. I'm just keeping it here in case I need to remodel the house, and I'm going to use it as a spare wall. But this takes me quite nicely onto David's point. So let's just read out the question comment and see what he's saying. Not really sure why you focus mostly on fiction. There are maybe huge profits on non-fiction. Recently one of your posts showed a lovely Atlas book and you made a handsome profit on it. Aye. Don't you think it might be a good idea to spend a little more time on specialist subjects, hobbies, etc.? Books that are likely to educate. Fiction I'm focusing on tend to be 10 a penny. Very true. Every charity shop I go into usually has dozens of Danielle Steele, Jimmy Patterson, Ian Rankin, etc. Usually priced 25 and 50 pence. However, books on niche subjects that people are looking far and wide for tend to have a greater value. Just my thoughts. You're right. You're absolutely right. Those specialist books, those things that are for a particular interest, where there's likely to have been much more limited print runs, do demand a higher price. There's absolutely no doubt about it. And I've made some really nice sales over the years on that type of book, and it's fantastic because typically you still pick them up pretty cheap, but you get a reasonable return on them. I have literally hundreds of those types of books. When I'm outsourcing, I don't just look for the fiction, I go through everything. I look through what's there. The shops round me, typically, you know, they'll have 5 shelves. The bottom one will be all your reference non-fiction books, and the other 4 will be fiction. That's kind of the balance that I usually see. And I look through all of them, and I look for anything that looks interesting, that looks a bit rare, that looks like it might have a bit of value, and I grab them, I take them. And sometimes they are a bit more valuable. More often than not, they're still just kind of priced the same as the fiction books that I'm picking up, but you do find good ones in there. The same as you do find higher value fiction books. You know, you pick up a bundle of paperbacks and one of them just happens to be in demand, popular, it's got a wee bit of a following, and it's worth a tenner instead of £3. And typically I find the same with the non-fiction stuff that I pick up. You get that same balance, but you do find cracking rare books every now and again. To step further into that market would mean spending more money on the sourcing aspect of things. So, you know, if it's a specialist book, you may have to spend 5, 10, 15, 20, 50, £100 on it, but you can make a nice profit off the other end. So you pick up that one valuable item, you focus on it, and you flip it for a reasonable profit. That's not where I am at the moment, business-wise. I couldn't afford within the business to say, right, I've got £100 for sourcing today and I'm going to buy 2 books, because I don't know how long those 2 books are going to take to sell. If I'm going to spend £100 on books, I need to know that I can get most of that back in a fairly short period of time, so that that's there again to go out and source and buy more. You know, speed of cash. That's all you can do with these things. So if I was to tie up my budget in higher end books and they took a month, 2 months, 3 months to sell, then I've got nothing else to keep that cash flow going at the time. So that's part of it at the moment. It would be great to have that extra cash flow to be able to go out and say, right, let's go and find some really good quality, high value bits and pieces, you know, auctions, book sales, etc., book fairs. And doing that requires a lot more knowledge than I have at the moment, so it's going to take a lot more learning. And I've been doing my research on these things. I have been following a couple of different people and looking at what they're doing with the high-end antiquarian, or, you know, other non-fiction specialist books. But in the world and the charity shops, that type of rare book, you don't find it very often, but you do find it. So yeah, I always look for these things, and whatever I pick up, every time I go and do a pickup, I will come back with a bundle of non-fiction, reference, specialist interest, hobbyist books. 2 wee seconds, I'll show you what I mean. Right, so yesterday, the pickup where I got this, I picked up, I think it was 104 books in total. So 104. Of that 104, the big atlas that I just showed you, and this lot are all the non-fiction reference type books that I got within that 100. So I do pick up quite a few. Ones that seem to do quite well, your self-help books, improvement, business type books. Stephen Covey, a couple of his titles sell quite well. This one, not so much. It's a kind of £3, £3.50 book. Nothing spectacular. Things like The Learning Paradox, Jim Harris. Again, 5, 6 quid it can go for. Nothing spectacular. I always look for education books, and there's always a lot of education books available. Foundations for Health Promotion, Legal Aspects of Nursing. Again, a few quid each, but we're getting to that time of year where people will now know, or very soon know, where they're going to be going for their further education or whatever it might be, and these will pick up a wee bit in value. But again, it's a few quid each. It's nothing spectacular on those. Another law nursing book, Law and Professional Issues in Nursing. Cognitive Analytic Therapy, Active Participation and Change. A few quid. I do, whenever I see these types of books, I do pick them up if they're down in the pennies bracket, because some of them are worth 20, 30 quid and some of them are worth 3, 4 quid, but it's always worth taking that gamble to pick them up. You know, if you pick up 20 of these, one of them will be worth, you know, enough to more than pay for everything that you've picked up, make a profit, and the rest becomes gravy. But again, a few quid for that one. This one goes for round about a tenner, so that's a wee bit better. The Intelligent Investor, which is the definitive book on value investing, so by Benjamin Graham, so maybe one to keep your eyes open for. Really nice clean edition, and let's say about a tenner for that one. Old textbooks, old textbooks. Again, some of them are absolutely ridiculously valuable. Some of them not so much. This, 5, 6, 7 quid. Not an awful lot more. There's much older editions of this apparently, which do an awful lot better. But yeah, it's either you want new, up-to-date, relevant material, or something that's so outdated that it's become collectible with textbooks. Other reference books that do really well, Haynes manuals. Haynes manuals. And I picked up 2 of them yesterday. There's one of these that I've picked up a couple of editions of recently that sells for like 15, 20 quid. These are closer to a £5 each, but still, I know they're going to sell, so that's why I'll pick them up. And some of them, like I say, do happen to be worth quite a bit more. Again, it's either with Haynes manuals, what I have found, probably be different for everyone and probably based just on what I've seen. You're either looking for the kind of really old stuff or really, really recent. The stuff that's in between is less likely to have value, but that's just what I've found so far. It doesn't probably hold up to anything. Then we've got Art of the Point Cloud. It's a beautiful book, a celebration of some of the most beautiful and striking 3D scans from around the world. So it's 3D scans of things. Some crazy images, but yeah, really nice book. People have got this listed for like 50, 60, 75 quid, but the sales on it are more like 10 to 15, but still not a bad little pick up from that point of view. But God only knows how long this will take to sell. I think the last one sold in either the end of March or the beginning of April for about 15 quid, so who knows when the next person will come along that's looking for this. A kind of 25, 30 pence book, turn it into 10, 15 pounds, that's fantastic. But if they'd had 10 of these, would I have taken them all? Yes, but that would have probably kept me stocked for the next 3 years. They don't move fast. Specialist books, you've got to wait for the right person to come along, but quite nice nonetheless. And the last one, Until Now and Geddes, and it's photographs of babies. So it's one of these big coffee table books. Again, it's a beautiful book and some cracking pictures in it. Really, cute and wrinkly. So yeah, that one, maybe a £5, and it's a big heavy book, so got to make sure you get the postage right on the big heavy books. So out of 104 books, that was at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's try to jump off of there. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 out of 104 were reference books, which is probably about, so I'm just putting them down there so they don't fall. Down they go. That's probably about the norm for kind of the proportions that I pick up. And one of them could have been worth 50 quid. You don't know until you get them. I also pick up like some antiquarian books when I see them. If they've got dust jackets and I'm able to do some sort of research on them to get an idea. But I've been picking up fewer of those types of books recently because they do sell. They don't sell fast. They might be worth 8, 9, 10 quid instead of the usual 3 quid, and you can get an awful lot of them, but they take up a lot of space because they're obviously more fragile, they're much older, so they have to be stored more delicately. They can't be crammed together. Modern paperbacks, stick them in the shelf, churn them over. The older, more fragile books, you don't want to risk constantly jostling and pulling them about, and I keep a couple of low shelves to protect most of those, and that's what that bookcase is becoming for. If a book's 150 years old, you don't want to be battering it about, and I've got a few of those that are actually worth a reasonable amount of money, but again, when they'll sell, who knows? They could sit there for years before the right person comes along to pick them up. So that becomes the issue there. However, let's find one. There we go. There she is there. Not listed this yet. Danielle Steele. Do you see them often in the shops? Of course you do. All of these books, you can go into just about any charity shop and you'll see books by popular authors. Why are there so many of them? Because they're popular and they've got a lot of titles out there. James Patterson, he must be closing in on 300 titles, I'm pretty sure of. Danielle Steele's the same. Nora Roberts, Wilbur Smith, Ian Rankin, Peter James, Peter May, Jacqueline Wilson, David Williams. There's, the list is absolutely huge. I've just listed about 15, 16 Patricia Cornwell books. There's authors out there that have churned and worked hard over the years and produced an awful lot of titles. So why pick them up? They're so common. They are. If everybody was out buying books in their charity shops, then we wouldn't sell any books on eBay at all, because everyone would be getting them at source and saving money. But what they're not saving is time. Do they have charity shops locally that they can get into that have a good selection, that have enough of a selection to warrant going in for a browse to find something that they want? Possibly, possibly not. So you go into eBay and you browse the millions of listings that are there to find something that you want, rather than possibly going around 5 or 6 little charity shops that are spread out around your local area looking for a couple of particular books. The chances of finding them, slim. On eBay, you will find them. If they exist, they're going to be on there one way or another, and then it's just down to price as to whether or not you buy them. So people will always be looking for these popular authors. The reason there's so much Danielle Steele, the reason there's so much James Patterson, the reason there's so much Ian Rankin is because they are so popular. People love those books and will keep reading those books. And if they've read a few, they maybe think, I want another couple of Danny Steeles to take in my holidays. So jump onto eBay, jump onto Amazon, jump onto wherever and find a couple of Danielle Steele books. Bundle them up, get them cheap, and then you've got something to read. So because they're so popular, there are a lot of them, but because they're so popular, they will always sell. That's the key. You're not going to make big profits on them. You're making pennies on the sale. A bundle of 5 Danielle Steele books, typically, I'll make about £1.50. That's my profit, about £1.50 off of, say, a £10 sale. So it's not huge, it's not significant, but it's pretty darn consistent. It will always happen because she is so popular. The same with Ian Rankin, the same with James Patterson, Peter James, Peter May, all of these other authors that you see me selling day in, day out. John Grisham, we had going today. Again, they will keep churning and you will always find them in the charity shops. The only drawback with those authors is the amount of space to store them. So if you've been watching these videos, you've seen what I've been doing in the spare room to make sure I've got enough space for a good few thousand books. And they do take up an inordinate amount of space to have enough of a selection that when people come to your listing, they will buy something rather than go, that's not one of the 2 books I'm looking for, and move on to the next, looking for whatever they can find. So if I didn't sell these 10 a penny authors, the ones that are out there all the time, and focused just on the kind of specialist books I'm able to find, 2 things that would happen. The first thing is I would have 0 spare time to do anything else, because the amount of time I'd have to spend out there sourcing and hunting those particular books would go through the roof. That would become very much full time. At the moment, 3 or 4 times a week, I'll spend half an hour or an hour out doing a bit of sourcing, and that's the extent of it, and that keeps me well supplied and lets me go through and pick up like the books that I've shown you today. If I was only focusing on those types of books, then I would need to be, travelling an awful lot further to cover an awful lot more areas to find enough places to pick up all of those books. The actual sourcing part of the process becomes a lot slower because you're essentially having to research every title as you go through them. You gain knowledge from that, don't get me wrong, it's not a bad thing because you will learn, and you'll know what to avoid going forward, which I already have done to an extent. But it would take an awful lot longer to go out and source enough to make enough money within a week. Because the speed that they sell at, then even more stock would be required proportionately. If the average sale through time on these books is like 6 months, then how much stock are you going to need to guarantee a kind of average sale period across each and every month? You know, if it's everything that you pick up today ain't going to sell for 6 months, which I know it doesn't work like that, but you know, making that assumption, then you need to pick up enough every day for 6 months to enough every day that it would be a day's worth of sales to make your profit. So say you're making 10 quid on every book and you need to make £100 profit, then you need to be picking up £100 worth of profit on books every day, which is probably about the way my model works, that's about £300 in sales worth of books every single day, which is 100 fiction paperbacks, which are pretty easy to find, or I don't know, 10 £30 books, which are really, really difficult to find. So there's that balance bit to find there. So that's the first thing that would happen. I would completely run out of time because I'd be spending all of my time out hunting for those books. And I do enjoy going out and sourcing, don't get me wrong, but it's kind of the best part of this whole job, you know, when you're going out and looking for stuff. But I can't spend all my time doing it. It's just not worthwhile. The other thing that would happen is what I just said. I wouldn't make any sales. So I would run out of time and I wouldn't make any sales. It would take months to get to a level, and that's assuming that I could find stuff every day as I just described, but it would take months to get back to the point of actually making any money in doing this and having enough stock there to actually get stuff moving and rolling out. So it's something that I'm quite happy to allow to build in the background. So, you know, today I have a lot more reference non-fiction books, some of which are worth quite reasonable money, than I did 6 months ago, a year ago, and that is constantly building because I do pick them up when I see them and find them, and they get added to the stock so that people can buy them and go, I sold a £50 book just last week. Great, fantastic, it's absolutely brilliant. But it was one £50 book last week, so great profit, but it was only one of them. I'd need to be selling 2 of those a day, so I'd need to sell 14 of them a week to get the same impact from what I'm getting selling all the cheap common titles. So yeah, if I flipped over to that just now, I would have not many sales and I would have no time because I'd be out constantly looking for those valuable books. And again, it's not something I'm not doing, but I'm doing it alongside what I do anyway. It is part of what I do. But these guys, these paperbacks, yeah, they're easy to find. Anybody can go out and find them. That's kind of the beauty. But most people don't. Most people, it's just a case of, well, you know, if you're selling stuff on eBay and it's a hobby, you know, it brings in a bit of money for your holidays every year, or helps with the mortgage, or pays the winter gas bill, whatever it might be. You've got limited space and it's fun, it's something you enjoy. So going out and saying, oh, there's 3 paperbacks, I can sell them for a couple of quid each and make £1. It's not worth your time. It's not worth the effort. Nobody's going to do that. That's ridiculous. But if you go out and you say, oh, there's 200 paperbacks, and then I can get another 200 in a couple of days, and next week I'll go out and pick up another 100, and so on and so forth, then that suddenly becomes worthwhile because you've got enough there that you might only be making, you know, selling them for a couple of quid each and making 25, 50p, £1.50, whatever it might be. But if you're doing 10 of them every day, then that's a tenner in your pocket. A tenner a day over 365 days of the year. You know, work it out, it's £3,500. So if that was your profit, just playing about with these, that's probably quite a nice family holiday. You know, it's going to pay a good chunk of the mortgage, it's going to cover your gas bills, it's going to be whatever it is, but you're going to need a bit of space and you're going to need to have somewhere where you can source them. But quick to source, all of these other things. It's niche. And again, go back to that, I've spoken about this before. Once you've gone niche, the sourcing, the listing, the processes get so much quicker. They really, really do. I was having a look back over my eBay history the other day, and last year, before I decided to flip onto books and to kind of focus on that small media aspect, I was actually making a wee bit more money. Not much, I was making a wee bit more money. I wasn't using up anywhere near the amount of space that I am at the moment, but I was out sourcing 3-4 hours every single day, looking for the treasures, looking for the good stuff, clothes, bric-a-brac, toys, all of these different things. So now I spend a lot less time, and I'm got back to the point of making about the same amount of money in profit, but I spend so little time on it compared to what I used to. It's ridiculous. As cash flow improves, I will be spending more time on it, because I'll be able to go and, instead of picking up 3-4 times a week, I'll be able to go into pickups 5, 6, 7 times a week, going to different places, going slightly further afield and bringing in more stock. But speed of cash, I've said that before. You can't spend what you don't have, and that's money in the business. So if that money ain't in the business, it's not there to spend. So you have to make sure that that keeps ticking over. So that will continue to grow and expand, especially now I've sorted out some more space resource. But bread and butter, it's called bread and butter for a reason. These guys sell, they don't sell for big money, and they still don't sell particularly fast, but if you've got enough of them, they will sell every single day. Yesterday was a bad day on eBay. I think I had £50 in sales in total. In fact, I think it was about £48 in total for a 24-hour period, which is really, 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 really low. I very rarely have below £100 a day in sales. My average over the last couple of months has fluctuated between £150 and about £165 a day in sales, which works out £50-55 a day in profit into the business, which is not going to be big salary. But bearing in mind, that is every single day of the month. It's not just Monday to Friday or anything like that. And all it takes now and again is a couple of really good days, and that average jumps up by a £5, which doesn't seem significant, but it does creep up. It has gone up from average sales of around £80 a day a year ago up to, let's say, between 150 and 165. It varies depending on the days, but it's been fairly consistent for the last couple of months, because my stock level has been fairly consistent for the last couple of months. I've not expanded anything. I've just been keeping it topped up and running that way. So once it does expand, obviously there's a potential for an awful lot more sales, and it is proportionate to what you've got on offer. It's as simple as that, as well as all the seasonal bits and pieces. So David, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to talk about this today. Yes, I agree with you 100% that there's potentially huge profits to be made in those specialist reference books. Everything comes at a cost, so to focus on those books, you've got to go out and find them, and that's not where there's value in my time at the moment. It's not worth it for me just now to be going any extra distance looking for more of those books when I'm already picking up a reasonable selection every time I go and get them. So pick up 100 books, 10% of them are specialist reference type books. They just take a lot longer to sell, and that's why we don't see them very often on here. So yeah, I'll keep your eyes peeled, and you'll see them selling as they sell, but it is just a case of wait until they come along. The other one last thing on that, actually, if somebody likes, I keep picking him up, Stephen Leather, and they read one of the Stephen Leather books and they want another one and they buy it from me, that's good, because they now like Stephen Leather and then they're looking for another one, so they might come and buy it from me, and whilst they're there they'll go, oh, let's pick up a Peter Robinson as well, and then they've read the Peter Robinson and they want another one and they can come and buy it from me. I get a lot of repeat buyers, a lot of repeat business, and it's because people come back for more of the same. That's it, you know. You get repeat buyers because people want the same experience over and over again. By experience, I mean, you know, particular authors and types of book. With the specialist books, somebody's looking for the textbook of polymer silence. Once they've bought that, that's it, it's done. They might be collecting scientific textbooks from the 80s, and you might have more of them and they might come back for them, but it's much less likely than the guy who's reading Peter and Stephen wanting more of those and coming back. So that type of sale is more likely to be a one-off sale and less likely to be a repeat customer than the guy that buys that one. The guy, the girl, whoever buys that one is more likely to be a repeat customer than the person who comes in and buys that one there. So it's another thing to keep in mind if you're... And that's again the difference between niche selling and being an everything seller. If all you do is sell quite specific items, you know, keeping it away from books, let's say jeans, all you do is sell women's jeans. Then if somebody's looking for a pair of women's jeans, we're going to come to you to see what you've got. If you sell women's jeans, books, computer games, DVDs, curtains, used toilet roll, whatever it might be, then when somebody's looking for any of those particular items, they're less likely to come direct to you, because you might have a couple of those things, but it's in amongst everything else. They're more likely to go to wee Jimmy, who just sells curtains. That's what it does. All it is curtains. You're going to go there because you'll have a selection to browse through. So the niche selling obviously generates more and more repeat custom, and the niche that I am mostly in has become popular fiction. You know, what's the genre fiction and literature, and people who are looking for that, who have been to my store before, know they can come back and I'm going to have a good selection for them to pick through and see what they can find. And that's that. Anyway, I am now just rambling on and on and on. I'm going to go and pack up these 3 huge orders. Just a shame nothing's even come in whilst I've been blethering away here. Excuse me. We fly flew down my throat as I was talking. Get these packed up, go and drop them off at the Royal Mail a wee bit later in the day, and do some listing, including that wee stack of reference books that I just showed you, because that's one thing I'm slightly guilty of. I pick those books up, and if they're not worth good money, they go to the bottom of the pile for listing and tend to stay there for a number of weeks whilst I work through everything that's above them. So yeah, I'll make a wee point of getting them listed up so that you can maybe see them sell and what they sell for. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Leave a like, leave a comment. If you haven't subscribed, why not, man? Know what I'm saying? No, please subscribe, leave a like, comment, whatever it is. It really does help the channel, and gives more people the opportunity to see me talking. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but yeah, okay. Thanks again, cheerio, and hopefully I will see you tomorrow.